At the Marie Morina. So that's two ways of saying good morning in the Maori language. Excuse me. So it is an ungodly hour of the morning, and I woke up very early to travel. Breakfast is no longer available, so the time I've allotted for breakfast is gone. And I'm feeling a bit manic, and I've drank loads of coffee, so I'm feeling like vlogging. So I want to vlog. I want to vlog. Yeah, there we go. Twisted Sister, I Want to Rock. Kind of garbled by Markie. So, good morning. In one of my recent videos, one of the ones that I recorded last night about Aleister Crowley, I mentioned that he was a psychopath. And it occurred to me that it might be a good idea to talk a little bit about what a psychopath is, and maybe more importantly, what a psychopath isn't. So that's what this video is all about. So stand by. But before we get into the meat of the subject, please hit the like button. If you hit the little like button and nothing happens, that's because you're not signed up to YouTube. So have a look in the contents, the description box below, and there's kind of a guidelines on how you can become a member of, how you can sign up for YouTube, which is a good thing to do because it means you can comment on all the videos that all or any of the videos that you watch. You can like, you can dislike, and you can comment. And we love to hear your comments. So, having said that, let's get into psychopathy. Now, notice the word psychopathy. So the word pertaining to being a psychopath is psychopathy. Okay, which literally means so pathy or pathological, anything with the word path in it generally, unless it's garden path, refers to illness. Or the root or the causes of illness. So you get that in, pathologists look for the root of illness. Osteopaths kind of treat illness. So psychopath. So psychopath literally means illness of the soul, which is kind of quite interesting. Which is a bit of a misnomer, I think, really. So although psycho these days tends to mean the mind. The original meaning of the word psycho was, or psyche, where it all comes from is soul, and there was psyche was a character in Greek mythology. I don't know much about psyche actually in Greek mythology, so we'll say no more about that. You can look that up if you want to know more. So, what is a psychopath? Okay, so first, the other thing as well to clarify is that the quality of being a psychopath is psychopathy or psychopathy, but we say psychopathy, which not to be confused with psychopathology. Okay, so psychopathology is a word that describes all mental illness, really all diseases of the soul or illnesses of the psyche. So if you have depression and anxiety, that would be your psychopathology, but it doesn't mean you're a psychopath. Okay, so important one to clear up there. So what is a psychopath? What isn't a psychopath? So think about Alfred Hitchcock's film Psycho. Actually, don't think about Alfred Hitchcock's film Psycho, because that does not illustrate a psychopath. So Norman Bates is not a psychopath. Norman Bates is many things, but psychopath is not one of them. So the psycho in that film title, essentially it's talking about psychosis. Okay. And it's not even really a good illustration of psychosis. So psychosis is a state where somebody loses touch with reality in a fairly significant way. And the two main kind of symptoms of psychosis are, you don't have to have both, you can have one or the other, would be delusions and hallucinations. Okay, so hallucinations easier to describe, so that's like hearing voices, that's like seeing things that aren't there, but of course, who's to say whether you're seeing things that really are there. I kind of subscribe to the Aldous Huxley view of reality. Delusions, again, are kind of interesting because, again, who's to determine what reality is? So delusion would be where somebody's sense of reality differs significantly from the norm. Okay, not just in terms of, like, for example, a belief system. So, for example, millions of people around the world believe in a virgin birth and that a man came back from the dead. But if somebody was to say that that I was the product of a virgin birth and that I came back from the dead, then people would start to question people probably do question my mental health anyway, quite rightly. So it's kind of beliefs that are kind of significantly different from the norm, and not kind of just a religious belief system or a rational or an out there belief system, but something that's quite distorted, and often they take a kind of paranoid kind of form. So they think that people are trying to put thoughts in their head or take thoughts out of their head. That's where the kind of the cliche of the tinfoil hat comes from. That somebody lines their hat with tinfoil so that people can't either steal their thoughts or put thoughts into their head. And that's not why I always wear kind of headgear, by the way. There's no tinfoil under here. So there you go. So that is psychosis. Now, people who are psychotic, which is the word that describes the quality of psychosis. No, it's the other way around, isn't it? People who are psychotic tend not to be violent. They're more likely to be the victims of violence than they are the perpetrators of violence. So the concept of a violent psycho, meaning somebody that's psychotic, somebody that has psychosis, is a bit of a misnomer, a bit of a rare one, really. So we won't go into the psychopathy of Norman Bates in this video, but it's certainly not we won't go into the psychopathology of Norman Bates in this video, but it's certainly not psychopathy, and it's probably likely to be more complex than psychosis. So, but with an element of psychosis in it, in fairness. So, what is a psychopath? Well, I kind of have some sympathy for psychopaths. Psychopaths, aren't generally well spoken of, although we often like them. The main traits of a psychopath are a lack of empathy, often a lack of fear, and a superficial charm, and really kind of like what we would see as a lack of ethics. I qualify that because there's more to that than what that statement would first sort of indicate, really. So essentially, kind of the lack of empathy, really, is somebody who is a psychopath is less likely to be concerned about other people, and is less likely. A good example of somebody with psychopathy. Most people have a sense of reciprocity. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So if I do a favour for somebody, for most people without psychopathy, they will probably be proactively looking for some way to return the favour. If they see an opportunity to repay a kindness, they will kind of take it. Somebody with psychopathy probably doesn't have that kind of mindset. So you do a favour for a psychopath, and it's like, and then even if you were to ask for a favour in return, they'd say, well, that's done and dusted. I don't owe you anything. So people with psychopathy can lack empathy and compassion. So potentially psychopaths obviously can be very dangerous, and often there's a correlation between serious crime and psychopathy. But actually the proportion of psychopaths in prison is relatively small. I can't remember the figures, but it's relatively small. So where are you more likely to find a psychopath? You're more likely to find a psychopath in your one of the classic phrases. You're more likely to find a psychopath in your church committee than you are in jail, and that's true. You're more likely to find them in business. Often they're very successful in business. the kind of ruthlessness that somebody with psychopathy has can often take them to the top. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. Often it is a very bad thing, but not always. So sometimes somebody with psychopathy is far better equipped to make difficult and painful decisions, particularly about things like redundancies and stuff like that in an organisation. So often they make, potentially they make good leaders, but provided that there are checks and balances in that. And I think the problem is that, too often they become leaders without checks and balances. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock. We've already got to 10 minutes and I'm still rambling away in my manic morning coffee-fueled state. So I'm going to go to a part 2. So stand by. So if you can't, basically to find the part 2, just go onto my channel, mark the Demystified. And what I eventually do is also put things on playlists. So you should be able to find the playlist, and then that will give you, if there's a series, that will give you all the episodes. So I may not have done this at the time that you're looking for this, but if you go on the Demystifier site, or you could just go into Google, YouTube, Mark Demystifier, Psychopath Part 2, and that will help you find Part 2. Okay. The other thing that you can do is subscribe to the channel, and then every time I release a video you'll get a little alert, but you only get that if you click the little bell. So if you look below, you'll see it says subscribe. If you click subscribe, that does that bit, but you wouldn't automatically get every notification of every new video unless you click the little picture of the little icon of the bell. So if you do that, you'll get automatic notification of all my new videos. So I will see you in part 2. Rangimarie.